Welcome to Pain with a Purpose, the podcast where we dive deep into the stories of resilience, redemption, and purpose. I'm your host, Chris Woods, and each week we will sit down with guests who have faced challenges with substance abuse, mental health, and recovery. But we're not just dwelling on the past. Instead, we'll explore what keeps them driven towards a purposeful life. Join us as we navigate the journey from pain to a purpose. So with that, welcome back to season 2, episode, I think you're episode 5.
Okay.
Yeah, episode 5.
Any episode's good, dude.
Although we wanted to have you on season 1, but we're both busy.
Too busy, dude.
Long story short, EJ Gilchrist.
How you doing? Pumped to be here, man.
Well, we got to give this disclaimer, right? He is actually as old as the grays kind of show in his head.
Yeah,
He's
for
getting
sure.
up there.
Yeah. Thanks. I feel it in my bones.
I mean, listen, we were just talking about it, right? You're coming up on 9, right?
Yeah.
I'm coming up on 10, God willing, right? So the grays, we're not young
I earned
anymore.
them, brother.
I mean, I remember when we were both playing in the URSL, we'll get into all that, but
yeah,
we're literally growing old in this process.
Dude, I saw a video today. Someone was interviewing a young military, I guess inductee or whatever. And they're like, when do you think someone's considered old? At what year were they born that you consider someone old? And she just stared straight in the camera and said 1985.
And you were born in what, 74?
I was born in 85. So that it
Holy
stung
shit.
a bit. You know what I mean? Can't bounce back from that.
No, also there's these kids that are still now just coming into treatment, right? And they're born in 04. You know what I mean? It's whoa.
Yeah.
04.
We
don't have to start off
for
that
the
deep.
record, right? 04.
Yeah.
I first ballot entry right in here. No problem.
Really?
Yeah, probably.
I mean, 04, I was 5th, 6th grade.
Yeah, I wasn't.
But I do appreciate you coming out, right? This is not close to your house, although you're local, right? A nice turnpike during rush hours, never fun.
Yeah. Well, also, it's getting dark out real early now, which is not cool.
Not
a fan. 0 out of 10 do not recommend.
Oh, you're just talking about the time of year.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about being born in 1985 and not being able to see it at night.
Thanks for bringing that back.
But you're young at heart, and that's all that matters. And I wish that you would actually do more of the shit that you could do on the internet, right? Because I always think back to when the double D's, when you would just I think you were outside of 8744, outside of a meeting.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about.
It was dude, it was classic.
We were outside of Pat's Pizza in Parkwood. That was our sponsor.
Okay.
And we did a video. We did a video basically just talking trash in a funny way. And we weren't, I wasn't talking trash to the other teams in the league because that can obviously go south really fast. I trashed our own team, every player.
Mm-hmm.
And it was electric. It was a great time to be in the league, dude.
I mean, it really was. I was young.
And you were a baby.
In that league, or my sobriety, right? So let's start with this. Did you play in the URSL before you actually got and stayed sober, or
no?
So that was your first shot, and okay. So I don't even know how long I had been sober at the time, but I remember seeing it, and I was like, "This is fucking genius."
Yeah.
Right.
So the cool thing about the team that I played on, which was the Double D's, was we were truthfully all neighborhood kids from the same, we're literally all from the same
all
neighborhood.
Scum. Yeah.
All dirtbags. And I got sober for the first time in 2009. No. Yeah. Yeah, 2009 for the first time. And now, unbeknownst to me, kind of what had happened when I got sober was, they said that you have you got to change people, places, and things, and you've got to kind of remove yourself from the people that you were hanging with, at least, and that's what I was told when I went away. And so when I got out of treatment, I heard that and I listened to that. So what that looked like for me was I like stopped hanging out with all of my friends from the neighborhood that I was, that I was using with.
Yeah.
And I started spending a lot more time with people, in recovery. And I was meeting a lot of new people, unbeknownst to me, which I guess I should have known, but didn't know just because I opted to start out in a different program. Like a ton of people that I lived with in the neighborhood had gone to treatment, come back, and they went to they were just at a different program. And so we didn't cross paths, which was like wild.
Are you talking about when you were in CA?
Yeah. When I was in CA. And I was like heavy in CA.
I know you were. I remember actually, I think I came to hear you speak the one time.
Yeah.
And that was actually my first time going to a CA meeting.
Yeah.
If you haven't, go. It's an experience.
For sure. Listen, in
like a good way. You know
CA,
what I mean?
CA, in my opinion, has always kind of been like the redheaded stepchild of the groups. But what CA did for me that, and my experience up until getting out was just like these groups would come into this building that I was locked into. And they would come and they would share their message of strength and hope. And CA, when they came in, seemed like they were just having fun, dude. Like, and I was so young, and I didn't want to not have fun anymore. So when I got out, that's where I went, and that's where I found my first sponsor. Now, fast forward. A buddy of mine who, my father is like this reason he went away, which I'd love to get into that.
Wait, is Dad sober?
No,
no, okay.
Never didn't need to,
Yeah.
or any of those things. But when, in the neighborhood, everyone, no one was really like a dealer, right? Like it was just like which one of your friends had it at that moment.
Yeah.
And so when I went away, my dad and my mom and my sister, they got my phone and they saw some of my buddies literally lived down the street. Like I've known these guys legitimately, two brothers. I've literally known them since I was like 6.
Yeah.
I mean, we played pickup hockey and football and baseball and everything.
Yeah.
My dad saw text messages between us and he thought that it was like all their fault. And so
I remember those times,
banging on the door.
Yeah. Everyone thought that they were the dealers.
Oh yeah. But everybody knows each other, right? So like, here goes my dad marching down the street, banging on the door. And he's like, your son's dick bum. And like the next day, my boy got locked into his basement until he got agreed to go away. And he's been clean ever since.
Yeah, dude. I remember that, dude. So I remember either the first or second time, right, that I went away. And some people know my buddy Jake, he's known as Jake the Barber, right? But Jake Hunter, we grew up together, and I remember my mom going through my phone. We were all just like whoever wasn't sick at the moment, right? Like, can you cut me off a half?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is that none of us were like big time drug dealers. We were all just trying to get by.
We were the polar opposite of that. Now, you couldn't have told us that then.
No.
Right? Because 2002 hip hop, that'll get you feeling a way about yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't even think
turn that up full blast.
2002, I wasn't even allowed to listen to hip hop yet.
Yeah, well.
But no, I know. I mean, it definitely can. I mean, it can put me right back into like
1,000%.
Maybe not 2002, right? But like 2006, 2007, right? Like,
see, you're so much younger than me that I'm almost positive that like systems in your cars, like used didn't even have that.
Brother, let me tell you something about the system, okay? And this is like a real thing, okay?
Yeah.
When I got sober, right, there was a couple things that like with untreated, like I had to check off the box, right?
Yeah. As you do.
Clothes was one of them.
Yep.
A new car was one of them. Didn't have to be new, just mine, right? Yeah. Didn't even matter what it was. I had to have a car.
Right.
Needed
my new job, wherever that was, because I quit the city of Philadelphia, was let go of the city of Philadelphia. And I needed like a girlfriend or a couple, right?
Yeah.
Like literally that's like how my mind worked when I got sober. And the next thing that like, after we got all done that, was like, I needed a system, right? Because like when I was bartending, whatever the case may be, like I always had a system in my car.
Yeah.
So I was literally that guy. You want to talk about like, you know, like knowing you're an alcoholic, and hindsight's 20/20. I didn't know this at the time, but like I got a system put in my car and made sure that it was at the perfect point when I was like driving past the stepping stones. You know what I mean? Like that's some sick shit, dude. Like
dude,
I'm rolling up to a AA meeting. It's like, dude, you know what I mean? Like I'm trying to be
talk about depths of sick.
about like trying to be the coolest dude on the short bus,
bro.
You know,
bro. In I guess 2009. Now fast forward, right? I get a cake job.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I had no business getting this job, right? I was making crazy money. I could not stay sober to save my life. I was pulling up to get my newcomer chip in a Cadillac, Cadillac CTS.
Mm-hmm.
I had like a suit and tie. I was wearing a suit and tie to work every day. Like, sick, really sick.
And the worst part about it is now it's changed, but like I can still revert back to that same thinking at any given time, right? As long as I have like a certain number in my bank account, or if I have a certain, I don't know, I feel like I'm going to be content, or everything will be okay. And it's like, I've gotten there, been miserable. I've had less and been happy.
Yeah.
It never adds up.
No. Well, listen, if there's a couple things that like became some of the most valuable lessons to me in life, was having a lot and losing it all.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because like, it just shows you that at any given moment, like you can be on top of the world and you can just lose it. Right. And sometimes that happens when you're sober, right? Like just being an active user. Like when I lost the really good job and the really good gig, like at that time, like I wasn't using, like I was still pretty sick because like I wasn't enough into this journey.
I think I remember that.
But like I was like, I guess maybe 28, 29 at this time. And like, I was making a fantastic living and someone, edged out my manager at the company that I was working for, and like my ego couldn't like really deal with that. And this guy like that got edged out, like saved my life. He was a huge proponent in like helping me like propel my life forward and believing in me. And when they let him go, like I was like, I can't work here. I can go to any other sales job on the planet because I'm just so good at what I do, and I'll make the exact same money and there will be zero consequences. And then life happened. And like, that's not the case. That's not everybody's base salary and commission structure and pay structure are even remotely close. But to come full circle here, I would go in and out with CA. Like I would get 2 years, I'd go out, I'd get a year, I'd come out. Finally, it got onto my buddy Joe's, who is the guy who my dad knocked on his door. He found out that I was sober, and he's like, first off, he's like, what are you doing? Where have you been? Like, why didn't you contact me?
Did you go, because he would have known if you were at the house. Did you go to sober living? Did you do any of that?
No.
Never in this whole time?
Nope.
Okay.
Never once. I've never lived in a recovery house. And like, and I'll definitely touch on that because you want to talk about sickness. But when Joe found me, and I'm sober at the time, I'm clean, right? Him and my buddy Mike, who Mike went to CA, so he knew that like I was together, but he was playing softball with Joe, which then made Joe reach out to me, and he's like, dude, we're playing on this team, like you got to come out, like just come hang out with the boys, dude. That's all we're asking you to do.
At that time, what was it, Double D's?
Yep.
Okay, so it's always been Double D's.
Always been.
Because I can't keep up with like the Levick and Oakleys, the Double D's, the Second Chance.
I have never once played for any other team than the Double D's until the Double D's folded, and I played 1 year with you, and we played on 4 seasons, which was basically double D's with like 4 or 5 other guys.
Yeah. Well, I mean, nobody, I mean, it's safe to say, right? And I mean this, and like, I wouldn't, you know what I mean, say this unless it was 100% true. Like, nobody on the double D's could like hack it with the heavy hitters. So that we had to like come together and call it 4 seasons to be inclusive to you guys. But go ahead. I didn't mean to.
No. And I'm happy to bring it up because, see, here's the thing. The heavy hitters, what you guys really cared about, right, was winning. We didn't. We were having way more fun than anybody else.
Absolutely.
Which is what made those videos funny. Like
which is also why the heavy hitters couldn't last. Right. You know what I mean? Because like we were putting like literally talent in front of like lasting relationships. We were like, dude stinks. Great guy. Can't start.
Yeah, it's okay. Like, and like we would go play games, and
we're talking about sober softball, by the way. If anybody doesn't know what we're talking about, like that's how we were.
I know that you're making a funny face right now, but what that did for me is unprecedented. It gave me something to look forward to. It gave me a legitimate. My 2 best friends on the planet right now have stemmed from that.
Yeah.
And like, I go to war with them boys any day of the week. Their children call me Uncle EJ. Now, do I think that we would have been able to grow the relationships the way that they've kind of, the natural attrition of those relationships have grown without that? Maybe, because we knew each other from before that, but like it caused us to be together every week. But we would play all these other teams, and the other teams, or we'd watch other teams play, and you guys would all be fighting with each other. Or you'd either be fighting with each other or you'd be fighting with the other team. We made fun of ourselves from inning 1 until the game was over. Yeah. Like there was never a team that we played where like yous ripped on us and it was worse than what we were saying to each other.
Listen, and I don't know if we were just shindies or heavy hitters, doesn't matter. When we lost to you guys in the playoffs at some point.
I don't remember.
And like your pitcher, right? Then he had he threw a gem on the mound, right? But like, I remember he was not received well because they thought that he was like, taking personal shots at us. And I'm like, you guys must not know this guy because he's the nicest guy in the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you have no clue.
Yo, Denny one time, right? Like you want to talk about having fun? Denny in the middle of a game, right? He stuffed a Little Debbie's donut in his pocket and he's pitching. And after he throws the pitch, he takes the Little Debbie out of his pocket, turns around to us in the infield, looks at us, bites it, puts it back into his pocket, and just goes right back to playing. Don't say anything.
Yeah.
No words. Just whips a donut out of his pocket and bites it. Like that's what we were living for. And that's what
it's all about, dude. Like we literally, and if you're not there yet, or you're listening and like, and you're just like, yo, what are these guys talking about? It's corny, right? Like something like that. Like that's life coming full circle. Like all I wanted to do was stop hurting. All I wanted to do was stop robbing my mom, like army crawling into her fucking bath or her bedroom, like stealing her debit card.
Right.
And now like we get off on like Danny
whips a donut out of his pocket.
Like who does that?
Game, right in the middle of a pitch. The pitch, whether or not the pitch was going to get hit,
doesn't matter.
Not hit, strike, ball, completely irrelevant. Just whipped a donut out of his pocket, houses it, puts the rest of it into his pocket. Like that.
Yeah.
Like that video and the videos that we would post on the old URSL page after every game, we would the whole team, we would go back to Pat's Pizza in Parkwood. Happy to plug that place. Best pizza. I did not realize, I grew up in Parkwood my whole life, did not realize how blessed I was to have that place in my neighborhood, how good it was until I moved out. And like, I've got no good pizza places where I live. It's abysmal.
Yeah. Well, where are you at?
I'm in Warminster.
Yeah. You don't have much.
Well, Berardi Brothers just opened up, which they didn't just open up, but their pizza is top tier. But regardless, when that CA made it fun, and I saw people there doing things that I wanted to do. I'll never forget meeting Will Williford. I have no problem saying his full name because he doesn't have a problem saying his full name. That guy was like a huge reason that I got clean and sober and continued to do so. And guys like Sean Carbone, who like were the best, dude. Like they just made it appealing. And then when the softball guys came in, that's really kind of, I finally had a group of people that I had to be accountable to because like I had to be there every week. And like they followed, dude, the double D's followed the rules. And the reason why I know that is because we went onto a playoff run and I had relapsed right prior to the playoff run. And they're like, you can come watch. Yeah. We love you, dude. We love you, dude. But like, there's rules in this league, and like, we're going to abide. We don't care that you're the starting shortstop. We do not care. This is not about winning. This is about community and about setting standards and letting people, recover on their own terms. But like, there's rules and there's consequences to your actions. You're going to have to like abide by them.
Yeah.
And I just had to sit there and watch my team lose because that's what happened.
You're probably playing the heavy hitters.
No, probably not. I don't even think he was existed.
They were probably playing Delco, right? Shout out Delco. They all cheated though.
Bro, this is so long ago. It was probably the Silky Mittens.
Holy shit. So that's the original SDR.
Yeah, right? Dude.
Wow.
URSL OG.
So, well, yeah, my first year in the league was, and listen, at some point we'll get into the actual episode. But my first year was what, long shots and beginners.
Holy shit.
With Kyle Curtis, Tink,
yeah,
Pick, all those guys. So like, if you want to talk about, and like they follow the rules, right?
Legend, yeah.
Right. Rest in peace.
R.I.P., man, yeah.
Dude helped me out so much in the beginning. We would just like, with how off the wall he was. And I was like, he's been sober how long?
Yeah.
And I'm like, so you're telling me that I can still have an absolute blast in my life? Stone cold sober?
Yeah.
Kyle Curtis, dude, like literally like brought me out there after a Newtown meeting the following Saturday to shag balls. I'm thinking Kyle Curtis has, 60 days, 6 months, something like that. Nothing crazy. Guy with like, why is he asking me to shag balls? Next thing you know, we're in the outfield and he's like, yeah, I've been sober like 6 years. I'm like,
yo,
what?
Shout out to Kyle Curtis, bro, because till this day, he's still that guy.
I know.
Like he's that guy, dude. Like he's still doing the home group, doing the meeting, getting in service. Like I commend him. And bro, if I let the group chat with Kyle Curtis, I mean, we roast this man relentlessly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's brutal.
Yeah.
But he's a great guy. He's a great human being. He's just one of those dudes, that you could call at like 2:00 in the morning. He'll be there.
I mean, he's just a great example of like how many people that like I might forget on a daily basis, but played like such integral parts in my early recovery. Right.
Well, I find often that when I get into conversations about recovery, like that's when some of these people that are really pivotal in my life, who I don't talk to as much anymore, like Will, it's nice to give them a little shout out to know like how much of a difference they made in one person's life. And I know for a fact he's made a difference, that particular individual has made a difference in many people's lives, but he made a difference in mine. And we don't talk every day, but like these pivotal people. And I don't know, I don't know if I would have stuck around as long as I did and continued to come back as long as I did, without people, doing that.
Yeah. All right. So we talked about all the good stuff. We're going to be all over. It doesn't really matter. But like, what led you to like actually getting sober this time 9 years ago? You talked about like getting a couple years going out, getting a couple years going out, getting a couple months going out. Like what actually transpired, right? Like, was it any different? Was it the same?
The first time or 9 years ago?
9 years ago.
Well, the risk of losing everything, right? I had found like the woman of my dreams, who checked just like every single box that you could possibly imagine. And like, I can't believe she's mine. It's like the greatest, the greatest thing in the world. And we had been together, and I used, and I like used kind of blindsidingly. Like it was like one of those things where I found myself in a situation where something was available, like it was just there, like in front of me, and with no thought, because I wasn't doing any of the back office work. I wasn't doing any of the administrative work.
Yeah.
That like without any stream of consciousness, I just did something that I always did, which was like I opened it up and I took it. No thought. I didn't run or like take off or go, but I used. And I ran the risk of losing that, and like having her in my life and our children in our life far outweighed the the minuscule enjoyment of even the slightest bit of a high.
Yeah. So over the last 9 years, we all kind of sit back and watch each other, right? Like, so I don't think you realize it, but like you've calmed down immensely, right? You're still one of the funniest guys in the world, but like you've calmed down immensely, right?
Yeah.
You very much have become like a family man. If the URSL was still around, who knows if you'd still be playing, right? You were definitely getting the whole team was getting old, you know, but the Jimmy Rickses of the world were coming in.
Yeah.
Right. That was another side note, right? Like another great thing about the league. And I hope one day they bring the league back, but
me too.
I remember Jimmy coming in and out. Right. And, the one day I show up and like he's playing outfield for Double D's, and I'm like, and I think for the most part he's been good. You know what I mean?
Since,
like it was just like a really cool thing, right? Because people that you don't see every day or see often, like you see them on the field.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you get to see that, whether you want to call it AA or the 12 steps or the URSL.
Listen,
right?
I'll happily speak on behalf of Jimmy
You know
Ricks.
what I mean?
Best decision he ever made was coming to Double D. Probably saved his life.
It might have. Where was he playing before? He was playing.
I have no idea.
He was playing for some other team.
Dude, when I tell you that I was so disconnected from the other teams, like I just cared about my guys on my team. That's it. And anyone who played with me knew that like I didn't know what the other teams were doing. I didn't know a lot of the other players in the league for like a long time.
Yeah.
They would say, our game is on Sunday. We're home, we're away. We play at 9, and I'll be like, I'll see you then. Like that was the extent of my.
It was just a really cool part of like my life.
It's crazy to think that it doesn't exist anymore, and it sucks. Like that sucks for so many reasons.
I mean, we could have a whole side episode 5.1 or 5.2 about that.
But regardless, right? So 9 years ago, it was turn my life around, or lose the single greatest person that had ever come, into my life.
Yeah.
And changes needed to be made. And so we hit the ground again, and haven't looked back. And listen, there's challenges. Like here's probably my favorite thing about getting sober is that like life happens. You can try and get in the way of it as much as you like, but it will happen without you. So you might as well do your best to enjoy the ride. I have seen so much over the course of the last 9 years. So many ups, so many downs, so many times I thought I was just out for the count and like there's just no way to climb out of it. And then like next thing slowly over time, like you find a house together. And you're like, how are we ever going to do this? But then you're in, and, for myself and my wife, we bought like a huge fixer-upper, like a monster fixer-upper house, but like it had the square foot that we needed for our family, and like we couldn't even eat out of our kitchen. Like that's how bad it was. And it's like, oh my God, how are we going to do this? And like next thing you know, you got a brand new kitchen. And then it's like, well,
just chip away at it.
It's just you. And then sometimes when you're not maybe feeling overly grateful, or you're kind of like just lost in life with 3 kids and work and business and relationships shit and family stuff and all of that. And, you know, something will happen that makes you kind of like sit down on your recliner and like look where you're at. And you're like, damn, we've accumulated a lot. We've done a lot. We've accomplished so much. And we've done that by sticking by each other's side. And
in the grand scheme too, you guys are really just only scratching the surface.
We're just scratching the surface, dude.
Cause your oldest is how old?
16.
So she's what, a junior?
Yeah.
So you have that like going on, which I'm sure is a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm sure for years to come, I'll be bouncing stuff off you like that. Like, how the hell did you get through all this shit?
Oh man.
Cause I remember you were talking about, and maybe it's not for this podcast, but like, you know, some recent stuff with like the technology and like, you know, like stuff going around the school. Dude. And it's like, dude, how do you keep a level head and not like essentially like harm somebody, right?
Listen, the best thing that you can do is teach your children well, to the best of your ability. They're either going to take the advice or not take the advice, right? Like, I come from pretty good stock, dude. Like, my mom and dad are like really, really, really good people. I'm the last of 10 kids. My siblings are top tier. I opted.
Wait, did you just say you have 9 brothers and sisters?
Yeah. Leslie, Sheree, Anita, Doreen, Darian, Margie, Kevin, Eddie, and Joey.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And you're the youngest?
Baby.
Wow.
Yeah. But like
Do you ever think they were like, damn, we were good at 9. This 10th?
Brother, they've thought that. They have thought that so many times.
I shouldn't say that, but like,
no. You can say that. They say it.
Not now. Not now.
Definitely not now. But they had quite a few years stretch there.
So 9 years ago, your now wife saved your life. Is essentially what we were talking about.
Yeah,
if we jumped all over the place and you're like, wow, well, they already talked about this. We had some technical difficulties, and I had anxiety, so I had to fix it.
I love that.
Lead with the chin. So, let's go to like when you essentially stopped working for somebody and you were like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to do something on my own, and I'm fully in.
Yeah. So, my wife and I, we moved out of the city, and we moved out to Hatboro, and, you know, as I mentioned before, like I just kind of was going from like sales job to like sales job. At one point I was offered a position working in the treatment world. Okay. And it was for less money than I was making, but it was something that I was super passionate about, because at this period of time in my life, basically everything about me was recovery, like everything. And I thought, you know, I want to follow this passion because it's so important to me. And you know, as usual, my wife's just like, okay, like if this is what you're passionate about, then like I'm going to support it.
Yeah.
And I got in, I started working, in the industry, and, you know, it was different than I thought it was going to be, like for sure.
Big time.
I was so accustomed to like hardcore sales,
like closing a sale,
closing a sale.
Also, potentially also getting leads on where you were going to close that sale.
No, dude.
Oh, so you always had to drum up your own business.
I was always closing my own stuff,
okay.
Right? Like, you want to talk about like cutthroat, true salesman stuff. I would walk into a business that didn't ask me to come in. I would discuss with them a product line that they probably hadn't considered using in an effort to grow their business, convince them that not only should they have it for their business, but they should be using me and my company to provide it and then closing that deal. Like, this isn't Verizon Wireless.
Yeah, but
Right,
essentially
like-
once they signed the contract, right? Like your job was essentially done,
Correct.
with the exception of like account management.
Yeah, because there's a whole team of
Yeah.
people behind us that did all of the digital and
so you came
paper
over to a
components.
side where it was like, not only did you have to figure out who could send you business, but also once you located that person and then found the person that was really the decision maker.
Yeah.
Then you had to figure out a way for them to actually work with you.
Yeah.
And there was really no close, right? It's
is
always,
no close.
It's always like an ongoing relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely different. It's different. I mean, it's night and day.
And so plot twist, right? Like, I failed.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was fired.
But I also don't know if it would, like, I'm a big believer in like everything happens for a reason, right? So like another plot twist, everything worked out. But
Oh yeah. Oh, listen.
But like, if you would have been somewhere else, right? Like, you definitely have the skills to be very successful at any number of other different places, right?
I appreciate that. Thank you.
At the time, right? Like when it happened, I
It was the
remember
only job-
that.
It was the only job in my life I've ever been fired from.
Yeah, but it's not because you weren't showing up, or
Wait a
wasn't
minute.
because like any of that.
No, I completely agree with that sentiment. I don't think that I had enough time to cultivate that type of relationship and connections with people in order for me to sustain the position that I was in.
Yeah.
There's literally no reason to go down any rabbit hole. There was no like, it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
And without a doubt, one of my favorite sayings that my mother would say to me all the time, and I still carry with me till this day, I say it to my children: sometimes rejection is God's protection.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because like, maybe I do get myself into a rabbit hole with a business or a company where like I'm doing just well enough that it keeps me in a position to not take the leap of faith that I inevitably end up taking.
Mm-hmm.
And so I leave that job and I go to like maybe 2 others in between. I'm working for other people. And what ends up happening is like the economy tightens up a little bit. And to make extra money to provide for my family, I would go out and I'd work in construction every Saturday and Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And the work would usually be provided to me by like one of my closest friends, Jim. And like, sometimes this man, you want to talk about like having good people in your corner, and like, I love to dive into that and the importance of that. One day in particular, 1 week in particular, like I needed to work. I needed to make the extra money to take care of my family. And Jim didn't have a job for me to do. And he sent me to a house to dig a hole for a perimeter of a footer that he couldn't get to for at least another 3 or 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And he did that so that I would have the ability to know that I was able to go out and I worked for the day.
Yeah.
Like I'll eternally grateful for people like that in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But I would go and I would work on these weekends, and then on a whim, I was like, I think that I'm going to do my own thing. And I had a preliminary conversation with a really good buddy of mine, Mike, who, I said, I think I'm going to open up my own business, and I think I'm going to do painting. And up until that moment, I had no knowledge of painting whatsoever. And he called me like 4 days later and was like, yo, I need some paint work. And I'm like, dude, don't mess with me. Right? Like, I'm serious. Like, I'm really trying to do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, no, I need paint work done. I need you to come down to my shop. I need you to paint my shop. And I didn't even own a paintbrush, a roller, a drop cloth, nothing. I was driving around in a Jeep Compass.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't own a ladder. And he gave me the job. And I remember looking at that deposit check and just being like, I'm never working for anybody else ever again. And this wasn't some huge deposit. It wasn't a huge job, but I had a guy that believed in me and I had an opportunity in front of me and I just refused to waste it.
Yeah.
So I took all of my knowledge that I had from all of my years in sales and marketing and advertising. I built a website for $18. I signed up a Google My Business page. I created the business. I did it all of it in a weekend, and I just grinded it all out. And I went on Facebook. I started promoting the business, and I started booking jobs, and I would just do them on the weekends so that I could make sure that my family was fed.
Sure.
And within 3 months' time, I was like a month booked out.
Yep. So
I haven't looked back.
Those are the good times. There's also bad times.
Oh, dude, there's so many bad times.
But I think what a really cool thing for anybody that might be thinking about, right? Like maybe like in the middle of rebuilding their life and they're like, what am I going to do? Right. Something that really interested me and what I saw you really run with at one point. And I'm sure you still get these like niche jobs, right? Is the, I wouldn't even know what to call them. Accent walls.
Yeah. I call them accent walls. Yeah.
But not like accent walls in the sense of like, we're just doing one
wall, not like we're going to paint one wall a different color.
Or we're not going to just like wallpaper one wall, right? Like we're literally going to do custom carpentry.
Yep.
And build a design for you.
Right.
And like seeing that take off, dude. And like, it's so aesthetically pleasing, right? Like I don't selfishly or, maybe I envy or I'm jealous. I don't have a wall like that in my house that I could accent.
Yeah.
Maybe one in my kitchen, but like that's like a really cool thing that you guys do.
Yeah.
And you
so
do
my
it
background's
well.
in carpentry.
Okay.
But the reason why I didn't open up the business in carpentry was because I knew for a fact I didn't have the money in my pocket.
Yeah.
To purchase all of the tools required for me to do that level of work. So entering into business ownership through painting afforded me the ability to kind of branch out into some of the other avenues that we have. And right now, I would say about 80% of the work that we do is wood trim related. We do a lot of wainscoting, a lot of shadow boxes, board and batten accent walls, herringbone, Crawford ceilings.
I love the Crawford ceilings. Yeah.
I mean,
do you think the 95% of the people even know what any of those terms are? Because I don't. So all I know is that you do some cool stuff. Well, I don't.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, if you need to find out, you come check us out at Gilchrist and Son Painting on Instagram, and there'll be a slew of pictures for you. What a plug. Boom.
What is the one? So I know my grandmother growing up, right? And we're going to go on a side tangent here, where we had just like a regular old Victorian house in Germantown, but it was like popcorn ceiling.
Yep.
She didn't change any of the popcorn ceiling, but she did throw like those fake beams.
Yeah, faux beams.
So, but they're fake, right? Like, but like, is that to mimic like what it, like at some point, like that's actually like a real beam?
Yeah, clearly it's supposed to look like that.
No, but I mean, like, is that part of the structure? You know what I mean?
No.
Like, okay, so that's just
a
strictly...
faux beam has nothing to do with structure. Now, it used to be structural.
That's what I'm saying. So like
they would be exposed.
So they ran with that style and they're like, I like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Much like the black ceilings.
Correct.
Right. Yeah,
listen,
I remember
some of
seeing
this
that
stuff
guy.
is really trendy.
Yeah.
Right? Board and batten can tend to fall. Those are like the little boxes that you see on people's walls. A lot of times they'll be like behind their bed or something like that.
Yeah.
Those might fall a little along the lines of like the trendy side. Wainscoting, well, technically wainscoting, but wainscoting or shadow boxes, you'll see them like below the chair rail in someone's house, and they'll have all the boxes underneath. I think like the last 8 jobs in a row that we've done.
Penny to do all that.
It can be.
Yeah.
It depends on how intricate and how much of it you want. Wood's not cheap.
Well, no, I know. Well, listen, we're thinking about like doing the deck, and you know what I mean. It's like, we'll hold off on that.
Yeah.
Nothing's cheap right now. But
I know.
To my original point, to see you like run with that niche, right? And we won't give too much of the secret away, right? But anytime like Facebook groups are a real thing, you can definitely get like real leads from there.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm like breaking the code when I'm like, EJ, like when you did my grandfather's house. And I'm like, EJ did, my grandfather's house or, word of mouth is the best marketing you have and it's free.
Yeah.
But also to tie that all together with like good people in your corner, right?
If you don't have, listen, when you're in recovery, one of the hardest things for you to do is to believe in yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes, dude. And I'm going to try really hard right now not to get choked up, but like sometimes you need someone else to believe in you more than you believe in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you that all of the greatest relationships I have in my life are from people who saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And they've pushed me to be a stronger, bigger, better human being. My wife, my best friends, Joe, Mike, Jim, right? Like these are people who believed in me before I had the realization that I could be the person that I am today, who isn't perfect. Long from it, like not even in the realm, but you've known me for close to a decade now. I'm definitely a different human being today than I was 10 years ago. And without these people believing in me, I don't know. I just don't know if I'd be here.
No, I mean, listen, we've had some like serious talks, right? When we're both just in the car going to wherever we're going, like just on the phone and just talking about like, you know, like if I'm not constantly trying to expand on something, right? And having people that I can actually talk to about that and people that have walked it, right? Like back when I was doing the detailing stuff.
Yep.
Which was great. Don't get me wrong. Like I was making great money. It was like a great side gig. I actually really had a passion for it, but I was dead. Like at the end of the day, I was dead.
Yeah.
At one point I had a garage, right? Like I was really moving towards like doing this thing. But now with like the media stuff that I do, right? If it wasn't for people like you and like actually walking me through, like, dude, just fucking do it. Like, who cares? Do it. Right.
Yeah.
And scale it. Right. I would always like doubt myself, you know, the podcast, right? Like I always cared too much about what people thought.
Yeah.
Or I always cared that like, or told myself like, fuck would I do this for? You know what I mean? Like nobody's listening. Guess what? I don't care if people are listening or not. It's really cool if they are, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
that can't be your only motivation.
No, it's not. Absolutely
and like,
not.
listen, here's the deal, Chris. The devil doesn't come knocking at your door with a pair of horns and a pitchfork in his hand, right? He's probably in here. And it disguises itself as convenience, as laziness, complacency. You got to beat that stuff away from you. And sometimes it's really difficult to do that on your own. So, my entire like sober origin story is my buddy Joe coming to my house, looking me in the face and being like, "Are you done? Like, you're done, right? Like you're embarrassed by the fact that we're here and like you're done. If I can do this, you can do this. If I have to move you into my basement to ensure that we get through the next 60, 90 days, then like go grab your sleeping bag because I'm not leaving you here like this. You're gonna get out of this. And we still talk every day. Business, like owning a business and operating a business is not for the faint of heart, right? And like one thing you're gonna have to do, truthfully, and like I'm positive that there's a statistic behind this. You better have a strong woman or a strong partner, I should say, in your corner, because you are going to ride an emotional roller coaster that you have never experienced before. The highs are the greatest highs you've ever been in, but the lows, and they're going to come. They always come. They're going to be some of the lowest lows that you've ever had. And you need to have a strong partner. First and foremost, who you choose to spend your life with is the most important decision anyone will make ever. And having good relationships, it's the most pivotal and important thing in my life.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, and that's like where we kind of all tie together, right? Where I started to really grow a liking towards talking to you, right? And also talking to other people that were business owners, where it was like, I haven't even tapped into it yet. Right.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
and unless I'm actually talking to like-minded people,
Yeah.
I never will. For some people, maybe they're, I don't know what it looks like, but for me, like I need to like have my hand held because I know that like I'm only scratching the surface on like my potential.
Yeah.
Because I remember hearing that before I got sober, right? Like, Chris, you got so much potential. Like, and it wasn't until like I actually got sober where somebody was like, yo, dude, do you know what they mean when they say that? Do you know what potential is? And I'm like, well, yeah, I can tell you the definition. And they're like, no, what it means is up until this point, you haven't done shit.
Yeah.
Right. But we all are aware that you have the ability to do great things. But you can't get out of your own way.
Yeah.
Right. So unlike sobriety, right, it was actually time for me to take like the bull by the horns and be like, I'm doing this.
Yep.
Well,
how beneficial is it to have someone say, you can do this? Like,
yeah.
I as silly as and small as that may seem, like you would call me, I think we've probably gone over, it's got to be 4 or 5 different business plans by now. Like and between the two of us, we're in double digits. I only want to have conversations with people who are going to say, yeah, do that. Believe in the concept of your day. Now, I want you to hold me accountable if it's a bad idea, right? Like we're going to be like, well, listen, here's the logistics of this. I've got a little experience in this avenue, which is why I think it might not be smart but like when you contact me about the car detailing, you want someone that's going to cheerlead for you a little bit. Like that feels good. It instills a certain level of confidence in you that maybe you didn't have before. And the longer I've stayed sober, what I have found is that I have less friends and more acquaintances. When I first got sober, I only had friends. Now I've been able to, and this is 100%, like without a doubt. And if I don't give credit where credit's due, I don't want any stolen valor. This is 100% because of my wife. When we first got together, she's like, EJ, we've been together for 3 years. This isn't your friend. I've never heard them. I've never even heard this person's name before.
Yep.
Friends are people who you talk with on a very regular basis. They know what's happening in your life, what's going on. That is a friend. Anything outside of that, these are acquaintances, EJ. Like I need to have that broken down to me to like a kindergartner. And so the longer that I've been sober and focusing, obviously on growing a business and being a family man, the tighter my circle has gotten. But that circle, I don't think you can break it, man.
No, once, and like, it's weird how like it all happens as you continue to grow up and get older and stuff like that. Like the people that you grew up with, that you were close with, you're like, I can never see myself not talking to this guy multiple times a week. Right. As you really kind of come into your own, for at least my experience, right? Like the people that come into my circle as I've come into my own are some people that I'd never thought that I'd ever even really associate with. Like some of my best friends, right? Like there's one, is like the guy that owns the nutrition shop, right? We look nothing alike, act nothing alike, but he's my boy, right? And like I have a business partner that's not anything like me, right? But we both see kind of eye to eye on a lot of different stuff. And then like, just like there's some people from early recovery that are still in my life. I can't fucking shake them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You don't want to, dude.
But like, they're just there.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's weird how it all happens, right? Because like, I'm a firm believer again, that everything happens for a reason. If you would have asked me that this was what my life was like destined to be or look like almost 10 years ago, I've been like, dude, you out of your mind. I'll be living in Miami somewhere. I never really wanted to be in Miami, but like, that's like what I thought life was. I needed all of the shiny shit. Right. And it's not the case at all.
No,
I just want to be okay.
Yeah. And it's tough to define that sometimes, man. Like there's no doubt about that. It's tough to define okay sometimes because as you the longer that you do this, the definition of okay changes. Right? It used to be
there's definitely
fresh white tea.
There's definitely a line, right? Where it's like, if I'm not here, I'm not okay. Right.
Yeah.
My line, because of just who I am, right, might be higher than some or lower than some. But you're right. It absolutely changes.
Yeah.
You know,
it's not about like a fresh pair of Air Maxes and a clean white tee. You know, there's people that are relying on you.
Yeah.
In a heavy way. And, but I like that. Like I couldn't possibly fathom my life without my children. Like, and showing how strong I can be for them.
Well, how many kids you got now?
3.
The son,
Dino,
sharpshooter, right?
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about Dino.
Yeah.
And I'm still going to get over there at some point to like I want to make some cool stuff.
We gotta get some like videos of him.
So Dino's the middle.
No,
he's the youngest.
Dino's the youngest. Dino's the youngest.
And then
I got Jasmine.
Okay.
She's a freshman at Villa Joseph Marie. Could not be more proud of her. She got like the most incredible scholarship on the planet to that school. And I know that she's just going to do so many great things there. And then Gia, my oldest, who's a junior at Wood. And she's just the kindest soul, the most thoughtful kid. And I'm really excited to see like what the future holds for them, because both my girls are like at the precipice of like, you know, really going to kind of like that next level in life, that next chapter in life. Dean is 5, he's in kindergarten.
Dean's the man. Just the videos you put up of him, like with the, you know, doing the archery. It's like, it's phenomenal.
He just, okay. I have 2 girls. I have a son. Now, that was a super transformative experience for me, because I am the last of 10 kids, right? But like my oldest siblings are old enough to be my parents. Like they could have had me at like 22, right? And so there's a huge age gap between me and most of my siblings. I am my father's only biological son. So my all of my brothers were brought into the family. Now my father was and is, but was my hero. When I was a young boy, I didn't like have a poster of Michael Jordan or Lenny Dykstra or I didn't care about any of those things. I just wanted to be like my dad. I thought he was the strongest man in the whole wide world. And the only person that I wanted to emulate was him. And if he was doing something, I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And, you know, you fast forward and my son, Dean, he just, everything I do, he wants to do. He does not have interest in anything else but what I'm doing. And like, I have to live my life keeping that in mind, like at all times. Because I am going to do everything in my power to raise a good man. That's my goal.
Yeah. I mean, he seems like he's the man already, and he's got to take over. It's already Gilchrist and Sons, so he's got to take it over.
Well, I named the company Gilchrist and Son because, as I just mentioned, I just wanted to be like my dad. And long before I was a thought, my father owned his own company. It was called Gilchrist Construction. And like when I was a young man, I didn't have a job like, you know, delivering newspapers or scooping ice cream, McDonald's. No, like 12, hammer in your hand, we're going to work. Yeah. And there's nowhere else I wanted to be. When everybody else was going down the shore for the summer and they were like working at Sam's Pizza or scooping ice cream or whatever, selling fudgy wudgies, I was doing none of that. Like I had to go and work with my dad.
Yeah.
And I always wanted his company to be called Gilchrist and Son Construction.
Yeah.
So when I opened up the business, I named it Gilchrist and Son partly in an homage to my father to honor him, but also, kind of maybe a grandiose thought that one day that I will build something strong enough, and great enough that my son will want to take that over and successfully, take care of his family with that as well.
Yeah. Or, I mean, best case scenario is that he doesn't have to, it'll already be there, right? Like he can just sell it and he's already taken care of.
That would be fantastic.
The opportunities are endless.
Yeah, they really are.
So to kind of like wrap it all together, what is the plan for like the next 5 years, right? How have you kind of channeled all of the pain that you've gone through, right? Turned it into somewhat of a purpose. Well,
listen, let's like, to wrap this up, here's kind of what that looks like. Pain is inevitable, right? My purpose is to move forward, regardless of the pain. Just because you get sober doesn't mean that the pain stops. It means that you have to stare it in the face. That's what being sober looks like. And that's what it means. You can run from it, but that will not work.
I mean, how long did we,
A really long time, and it didn't work. So, but on the other side of fear is greatness, or at least the opportunity to be present for it. The things that I have today, I wouldn't have if I didn't, walk through the fear. So, I've just recently gone through some pain, right? And just some like chaos in my life. I lost my father 2 years ago. It was the hardest thing I've ever gone through. I've been to more weddings than I have been funerals, right? Like, being sober is awesome.
So I'm going to stop you there, even though you're on a tear right now, but it's a really interesting point that you just made, because you hear, like, when you come into the rooms, right? Like, get yourself a black suit. You're going to go to a lot of funerals. Like, that's inevitable too, right? But like, my story's the same. Like, I've gone to a ton of weddings, right?
Dude.
My entire, like, everybody in my life is sober, right?
Yeah.
For the most part. Like, there's a lot of good in recovery.
No,
right?
buddy. No. Listen. There's only good. There's only good. You're going to lose people regardless. I lost my father 2 years ago. What does that have to do with recovery? Who'd he hurt? People die of cancer every day, but they get hit in a car accident and they're no longer with us. It's only good.
I say it all the time, right? Like, we know two things for sure, right? Like, the shit's coming. Yeah. Right. It's absolutely coming, but it's 100% contingent on like what I'm doing for myself, my recovery, and like my own mental health.
Yeah.
If I'm not doing shit, right, I could wake up and like, someone could look at me wrong, and next thing you know, I'm flying off the handle. Or something tragic could happen, right? Like losing a family member or losing your dad. And like, we continue to trudge, right? And that's 100% contingent on not only the strong people that we have in our life, our support networks, and what we're doing for ourselves on a daily basis. If we're not doing anything, who knows what could happen, right? What a perfect excuse.
Right.
Hear about EJ?
Yeah.
He drank. Well, he lost his dad. I get it, Or it's like, no, again, you went through that pain and you continue to move on.
Yeah. Well, you have to be, you got to be larger than the pain. And you have to understand that it all passes. It all passes. Right? Like, whether or not you like it or not, it passes. Time passes.
With some action, right? Like, you can't
No. It passes regardless, Chris. Your comfortability in how it passes.
It's an interesting point, right? Because like, what if, right? And I know of people that like, go through some traumatic stuff, right? Or losing a loved one or losing a job, whatever the case may be, and just sit there and don't continue to trudge, right? They don't pick up a drink. They don't pick a drug. Maybe they're normal people, but they just sit.
That's
right?
a choice.
It is a choice. I'm with you on that, right? But the choice is also to take action and continue on, right?
Right.
So like, if we're not, right, like, I mean, that's just like, I don't know where I was going with it, but like, I've seen people in my life that like, will just like, something bad will happen, and next thing you know, it's like, it happened to them, right? Again, it goes into that original thought of like, what am I packing into the stream of life instead of what am I trying to take out, right? Like, life is not happening to me.
Right.
I'm here for the ride by all means, right? But I'm also trying to see the good that I can pack into life. If I'm not, next thing you know, it doesn't matter how good or bad my life is, I'm like, shit sucks. I can find an excuse for anything.
Yeah. But again, I think that's like a lot of that's perspective,
Mhm.
right? And it's a choice. Not making a choice is a choice.
Mhm.
To move or not move. No matter what you do, the world and the earth is going to continue to rotate and life is going to continue to move on. You can participate or you cannot.
Mhm.
Either way, it's going to keep rolling. It's going to keep moving. The purpose also continues to change,
Mhm.
right? Like I know that this is obviously a very, sobriety based podcast.
Yeah.
And if there's anything I can at least say for myself is that 9 years ago, sober is how I defined myself. It represented every component of my life.
Mhm.
Today, being sober is a singular component of who I am. It does not in any way, shape, or form define me. It makes up a lot of characteristics about how I choose to conduct myself today through the lessons that I've learned through the rooms, through friends, through peers, and through loved ones. But it's not my defining characteristic. I'm so much more. And so if there's anyone that's listening to this that's new to recovery and new to the rooms, is that if all you're seeking is sobriety, you're selling yourself drastically short.
100%. And that's the basis of the entire thought behind me actually doing this, right? Although, yes, it is based on sobriety and things like that, but like in my crazy head, it made sense, right? But I don't know if it's going to sound like sense right now, but like, yes, we all went through a ton of pain, right? The majority of the guests that I'll have on went through a ton of pain. Some of the guests might not even struggle with substance abuse or mental health. They might be loved ones or whatever, right? The purpose behind all of it, at least on the front end, was, yes, we all burn our lives to the ground at some point. And we got sober and that's all well and fine, but we're allowed to want more, right?
Yeah.
I'm not okay with like just being mediocre in my life, right?
I agree.
And I don't mean that from like a financial standpoint, right? I mean it from like I want more life, right? I want a fuller life. I want a bunch of stuff that is not tied to money at all. So like that's the purpose behind it, right? Like leaving an impact in one way or another, right?
Yeah.
Because I did a ton of damage. If I can even the scale a little bit, and it doesn't have to be with helping another alcoholic, it doesn't have to be, it can be a bunch of different things. That's like the whole basis of the podcast, right?
Well, listen,
like people that have rebuilt their life, not only got sober, but blew it out of the water 20-fold, right? And it might be different avenues all across the way. But that's why you were asked to be on the podcast, not because you're sober.
Yeah.
Because you ended up getting a lot of gray hair and you trudged on.
Yeah. Yeah. But listen, people pay money for a touch of gray.
Is that what you use? Because it doesn't look natural.
Yeah.
No, it is a look right now. It absolutely is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I got a fresh cut. I wanted to, I wanted to look good.
I'm averaging like 20 views. You know what I mean? So like 20 people will see the haircut.
Yeah. Well, listen, here's what I can tell you. I was asked to speak, I was asked to give the eulogy at my father's funeral, which was a huge honor. And, something that my father believed in more than anything was family first.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a tough SOB. He was going to tell you exactly what he was thinking, whether or not you liked it or not. But he loved his family. There was nothing that man wanted to do for his family. And, I can tell you from personal experience that if you want to leave an impact in this world, it starts at home and how you conduct yourself there. If you're a good man, and you raise your children to the best of your ability, and you respect your wife, and you conduct yourself like a man with dignity and respect and honor, that is going to pass down generationally through your family, and that will be the legacy that you're looking to leave. And there's no greater legacy that could be left, in my opinion.
I mean, there's really not much to be said after that. Not sure if that was scripted or not, but that was really good.
No, it's what I said.
It's from the heart. You know what I mean? It was really awesome.
I believe that.
So with that, is there anything else you want to? I didn't do it again, dude. I'm the fucking worst. I might be the worst. If there was a fucking tally, okay, of like best to worst YouTubers,
Yeah,
I'm top 10 worst of all time.
I'm gonna agree to disagree with you because the YouTube is a wild place.
Well, if you agree, how about this? If you agree, comment. So I know you'll listen to the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like us on Instagram at PainWPurpose, Apple and Spotify podcasts, Pain with a Purpose podcast, and we're on YouTube, Pain with a Purpose. That's where this will be shown. Definitely appreciate all the positive feedback. Appreciate the negative feedback too. Can't get
gotta
better
be able to
without it.
learn.
Unless the negative feedback is like, yo, maybe like plug yourself within the first, like, you know, first half of the episode. I'll be like, yeah, no, you have no clue what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always forget to do that. So is there anything else you want to plug?
No.
With the exception of like, I'm going to plug it for you. I don't care. With the exception of like all of the positive people, because we've talked at nausea about all of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like the mastermind group, like all these people that have essentially came before you, right?
Yep.
What's his name? Streets of Success.
Oh, Frank Lee. Yeah.
Frank Lee, right? Like what a great story that is, right? His, I mean,
top tier.
I'll have him on at some point.
Please do.
All of these people, right, that have played integral parts in our lives, whether it's sobriety or not, and helping us progress, right? Like I have yet to be to the mastermind group, but I sit back, I watch, I listen, right? Like, and I know, I shouldn't say I know, but like I have an idea, right, of like the positivity and like the motivation that like, you know, you're probably ready to like run through a wall when you leave a place like that.
You absolutely are. I mean, that's an irrefutable fact. And if I'm going to plug anything when I'm here, the wife just recently started a business venture that like I'm really, really excited about for her. Cause it ties into a really cool passion of hers. And a super convenient thing for the consumer. So please check them out. It's called the Cozy Porch Company. Essentially any fall, winter, Christmas decor that you would like to have displayed in the front of your house. There's packages that you can choose from. So like maybe if the front of your home, or like maybe you just don't have like an eye for design or something along those lines, you can reach out to Gina through her Facebook page and or her Instagram page, the Cozy Porch Company, and check that out because I think that's a pretty cool thing that she's doing.
How does she go about it? Is she going to the location and doing it for them, or
Correct.
is she giving them like almost?
No, she is setting everything up. You choose the package that you like. She comes to your home, lays everything out, so that it complements the entryway to your home really well. And you can check out some of the pictures that she's already, that she has posted, some homes that she's already done. I think it's a super cool business concept that I love that she's doing. And as much as she supports me and everything I do, the best thing I can do in a situation like this is help plug her a little bit too.
Yeah. I mean, we'll make sure that we plug, like, give me the Instagram stuff and what is it? At what?
The Cozy Porch Company.
At the Cozy Porch Company and on Facebook.
And on Facebook, the Cozy Porch Company.
Cool.
Yeah, my man.
Well, I definitely appreciate,
Love being here, dude.
I mean, sucks that I had to remind you that we were doing this tonight.
Oh, I had to. Oh, okay, yeah.
Because it went off in my calendar and you were like, I don't know, let me check the calendar, but I really appreciate you making time for me.
Yeah. I think the premise of this should be honesty.
So it is. I hope the viewers know that, like,
they sense the sarcasm,
like when I'm being serious and when I'm not. So like what actually happened was
we
locked it in.
We locked it in
because you were like, hey, still would love to get on. And I said, you give me the date, right? You gave me the date. I said, locked in. And then I went about my day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you texted me today, what, a week later, 2 weeks later?
Yeah.
You were like, yo, tonight, right? And I was like,
no clue what you're talking about, EJ.
Nope.
Yeah.
I was like, is it tonight? Because I have another shoot tomorrow night.
Yeah.
But luckily, for myself, right? Like I texted Kel, and we talked at nausea, right? About having strong people in your corner.
Yeah.
And as much as like she would love to say like, go fuck yourself, dude.
Yeah.
She was like, yeah. So that's when I was like, yeah, we're good to go.
Thank God.
So yeah, I do appreciate us like being in constant communication and getting this done because I think it's a good episode. And with that, we'll shut it down and we'll see you guys next week.
My man.